Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Rosh Hashanah. We are up to Perek Daled Mishnah Bet. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'elu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam began Eden, Amen, and Avdeh ben Chaim Nechaim, and Refuah Shelema Bacha bat Esther, and Daniel Shalom ben Rosa, Betor Shah Cholei Israel. The Mishnah begins, Ve'od Zot Hayta Yerushalayim Yitera al Yavne. And in this respect too, Yerushalayim was superior to Yavne. Now the Rav and the commentaries explain that by saying the word "to," the Mishnah implies that there is another way, not mentioned in this Mishnah, in which Yerushalayim was superior to Yavne regarding the mitzvah of shofar. And the Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, page 38, explains that when Rosh Hashanah fell on a Shabbat, the shofar could be blown anywhere in Yerushalayim, and not only in the presence of the court, provided that the blowing took place during the first half of the day when the court was in session. In Yavne, though, it could be blown only before the court. Our Mishnah adds that this superiority of Yerushalayim over Yavne extended further as it proceeds to explain. However, this seems to contradict the previous Mishnah, which taught that the shofar was blown only in the temple and not elsewhere in Yerushalayim. So Tosfot Yom Tov explains that the previous Mishnah meant only that the shofar cannot be blown throughout Yerushalayim at all hours of the day. Rather, like we said, it may be blown there only during the first half of the day when the Bedin was in session. In the temple, however, the shofar could be blown at any time, even after midday. So again, let us begin the Mishnah. And in this respect too, Jerusalem was superior to Yavne. Shekol ir shiroa, any town from which a person can see Yerushalayim, v'shomat, and can hear the shofar being blown in Yerushalayim, ukrova, and is near Yerushalayim, meaning within 2,000 amot, v'chola lavo, and it is possible to go from that town to Yerushalayim, meaning there is no obstacle between them, such as a river that would prevent travel, is considered part of Yerushalayim in regard to the laws of the shofar. For the town to be subject to the same laws as Yerushalayim, all four conditions must be met. A person in the town must be able to see Yerushalayim, and to hear shofar being blown in Yerushalayim, and to travel to Yerushalayim, and the town must be within 2,000 amot of it. If he cannot see Yerushalayim, but he can hear a shofar there, meaning the town is in a valley near Yerushalayim and the view is blocked by a hill, or if he can see it but he cannot hear its shofar, meaning the town is on a distant mountaintop that overlooks Yerushalayim, or if he can both see and hear but cannot travel there, meaning a river blocks the way, or the town is more than 2,000 amot away, it is not considered like Yerushalayim with respect to blowing the shofar on Shabbat. But if all four conditions are met, the Mishnah says, Tokin, they may blow the shofar in that town on Shabbat, even if they are not in the presence of a court, because again, all four conditions are met. Ubeyavne lo ayu tokin ela bebedin bilvad. Yerushalayim was superior to Yavne in this regard, because in Yavne, they would blow only in the presence of the court. The court's authority did not go beyond its immediate presence, so the shofar could be blown only before the court, and not anywhere else in that town, and certainly not in a neighboring town. In fact, the shofar could be blown before a court in any town, and not just in Yavne. Again, Yavne is mentioned here only as an example of a city that did not have the same law as Yerushalayim. That is in a Mishnah Bet. Mishnah Gimel continues, having mentioned Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai's innovation regarding the shofar, the next two Mishnah list another four of his decrees. The first of these concern the mitzvah of taking the four species, the lulav, etrog, hadasim, and aravot on Sukkot. The Mishnah begins, Barishona ya lulav nital b'mikdash shiva. Originally, when the temple still stood, the lulav, together with the other three species, was taken to the temple on all 7 days of Sukkot. Ubabidina yom echad, and in the provinces out to the temple, it was taken on only one day, the first day of Sukkot. Now the biblical mitzvah of taking the four species applies to those out to the temple only on the first day of Sukkot, and to those in the temple on all 7 days of the festival. And as in Mishnah 1, provinces refers to anywhere outside the temple. Mishecharab Bet HaMikdash, when the second temple was destroyed, Hitkin Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai Shiel Lulav Nital B'Medina Shiva Zechel HaMikdash. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai decreed that the lulav be taken even in the provinces on all the 7 days of Sukkot in commemoration of the temple, meaning on all 7 days of Sukkot except for Shabbat, when the sages forbade taking the four species out of concern that one may carry them in the street, which is biblically prohibited on Shabbat. On all 7 days of Sukkot except for Shabbat, that's when Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai made his decree that the lulav be taken even in the provinces on all the 7 days, again, except for Shabbat. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai also issued a decree regarding the prohibition against eating grain of the new crop, Chadash, before the Omer offering. This was a mincha offering that consisted of barley from the new crop. Now, before the Omer offering is brought in the temple on the second day of Pesach, the 16th of Nisan, Rabbi Yochanan made a decree, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai issued a decree regarding eating the grain of the new crop. According to biblical law, the new crop is permitted as soon as the Omer offering is brought. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai established what must be done after the temple was destroyed and the Omer offering was no longer brought. The Omer offering, the commentaries explain, we'll see it here, V'shiyeh yom hanef kulo asur, and he decreed that the new crop is forbidden the entire day of waving, meaning the entire second day of Pesach, when the Omer offering was waved in the temple. The commentaries explain the Omer offering must be waved in the 4 directions of the compass. Therefore, it is called Omer HaTinufah, the Omer of waving, and the day on which it is brought is called Yom HaNifechem Et HaOmer, the day of your waving the Omer. Now, in the absence of the temple, when the Omer offering is not brought, biblical law permits consumption of the new crop early in the morning of the 16th. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, though, decreed that the new crop remains prohibited until nightfall. His reason was that the temple might suddenly be rebuilt on the night that begins the 16th, in which case the preparations for the Omer would begin much later than they did when the temple was standing, possibly causing the offering itself to be delayed until late in the afternoon of the 16th. So if so, the permission to eat the new grain, which depends on the Omer, would likewise be delayed until late in the afternoon. So Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was concerned that if people would be accustomed to start eating the new grain early in the morning, they might do so even in this situation that we described and not wait, as required by biblical law, until the Omer was brought. So to prevent people from committing this biblical transgression, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai decreed that we must always wait until the end of the day before eating the new grain, as the Gemara explains his opinion on page 38, Masechet Rosh Hashanah. And that is, Rabotay, today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.